Dr. Hudu from the Department of Linguistics. Microphones, please. Microphones, please. Microphones, please. Languages. To kick the ball rolling, we'll like to start with Prof. Can you speak very well? So, is Fanti your mother tongue? The microphone is over, please. Mike.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And let's ask Matt. Your mother tongue is? Mr. Vojo, your mother tongue, sir?
Chi. Asante Chi.
Okay. And any other Ghanaian language you can speak?
Okay, apart from that, no other Ghanaian language.
Dr. Hudu?
My mother tongue is Dagbani. And sometimes I pretend I can speak some other languages, but...
All right, so we'll start with you. Were you taught using Dagbani when you were in the elementary stages of your school?
No.
Which of the languages did your teacher use in teaching you?
I was taught using English.
So early grade English throughout?
Yes, maybe the first primary one, but after that, it was a mixture of English and Dagbani, and the belief was that, well, there should be more English because that would help me learn. And that would make me a better student. After all, education is about being able to speak English, so there was a lot of emphasis on Dagbani, English. Yeah.
But now having arrived at this stage and being the head of the linguistics department here, how do you see the importance of using the Ghanaian languages, especially Dagbani, in raising our children in educational institutions at the elementary grade?
Actually, I did this service to our children by introducing them to English very early in the educational system. Sometimes we confuse knowledge with language, and that is part of our problem. When you teach a child in a language like English, which is not native to them, the child basically has two tasks. The task of learning the content and the task that is to the detriment of the content that you are imparting on them. And in fact, I have the experience of living, like many of us who have studied outside the country, living with people, studying with native English speakers, and you can see the difference, even though we understand what the English language is saying. I also have the experience of teaching on part-time at the University of Education, Winneba, in the Ghanaian language department. And I can tell you, I enjoy teaching phonetics and phonology in Dagbani, using Dagbani to teach phonetics and phonology, than using English to teach the same subjects, even though I'd been teaching phonetics and phonology in Legon for years before I started to teach there on part-time. And I really enjoyed it. And I saw that my task of explaining the concepts to my students was much easier because I was speaking it, even though in some cases I had to translate the concepts from English into Dagbani. But it was much easier explaining the concepts, convincing the students, demonstrating it for them to understand than I do when I teach the same subjects in Legon here. And so teaching in the mother tongue comes with tremendous benefits from all levels. It's not only at the basic level, from the primary to the tertiary levels, from the point of view of the learner as well as the point of view of the teacher. I think that it is something that we must adopt and encourage.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Shall we give it to him, please? Mr. Fodro, We want to know your experience at elementary school using languages to learn.
At the elementary school, we those who attended the Saito type of school, and you realize that we were always marginalized, and we spoke Twi. It was a code missing, and we had the opportunity to go to the secondary school. And then you go there, you see you've been messing up things. But we were able to sail through. And I never spoke English fluently at the basic school. But when I went to secondary school, I think I have been able to go through the system up to the university level. And just as we are discussing, I just want to divert our attention to something important that we haven't focused our mind on. I think I've conducted a research on translating the court jargons into Twi. And when you go to court, you see that the medium of communication is the English language. Sometimes you realize the parties, the plaintiff, the defendant, the judge, the lawyers, they all reasons why there is a prolongment of cases in court. And some of these interpreters, you see that there are certain terminology that they don't understand. They misinterpret them. And that has a great repercussion on somebody's case. And we've been to the hospital, translating the hospital jargons also into Akan. And you go to a doctor in a consulting room who doesn't know Wednesday is Ukuyada. So when somebody comes and then the person says, when did they start? Then the person says Ukuyada. The doctor doesn't understand. And there was an instance, a patient went to the hospital and the patient said, Mafue. You realize that Ghana is not taught at the medical school. And we are just doing things anyhow. I remember we had some visiting lecturers from Michigan University. They came and you see, they don't understand. So what are we doing? I think AyaPrep has opened the floodgate, and it's a laudable idea. When the app came, I vetted it in our university, and I recommended it. And I've seen that using it will help our students. So I think we've realized that those...
Okay, thank you. So growing up, I also had my basic education. That's class 1 at Jasekai demonstration school. So English wasn't the Twi and then Bohem as well. So it was more of the Twi. Then we moved to Accra. When we moved to Accra, I was moving to class 2. But when I came to Accra, I was taken to KG1 because I met English and I couldn't understand whatever they were doing. But after the first term, I was able to understand what they were doing. And then, so in my first term, I was moved to KG2. Second term, moved to KG3. Third term, so I came back to my original class. And I believe it was because I was being taught at the basic level in the local language. But when I came to Accra, it was difficult to adjust at first. But once I adjusted, it has been good throughout. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of speaking local languages or using a local language to teach. It actually allows for comprehension. My mom is a retired teacher. She's retired now. She's been teaching for 37 years. And half of that time, she taught basic 1 to 3. And she always said that the students or the pupils who were being spoken to in their local languages at home were the ones who were always doing well in class. Because when she was teaching and they didn't understand, she would turn to the mother tongue. They understand and they are able to bring it back into English. So if there was no language you were speaking, then in what language are you going to turn to comprehend and then bring back? And so we can't overemphasize that. It is extremely important. From after that, the language of instruction has been English all along to the level that I've got into. But I came to a certain realization that for me personally, sometimes when I'm teaching mathematics and the students do not understand, I try to explain it in Twi. And in doing that, they understand. So I saw it was an issue of comprehension. They did not comprehend in English. The only little challenge we may have with this is that vocabulary to explain some of these things were difficult. But I kept asking myself that language is being built. And so was there no way that we can create our own vocabulary? After all, it's our language. And so if we say this stands for that, this stands for that, and it is that. And I believe that we can, grow this vocabulary. I have realized that other countries, like Chinese, they are very good in mathematics. And the Indians, they do it in their language. And if you want to go and study, you would have to study in their language. They allow only certain courses to be taught in English. But the ones that will teach you deeper things is in their language. And so we can put so many things in our language and then give it to our children. And I think it's high time we start looking at teaching in the local language. I am an advocate for that, at the basic level at least, so that when they get the foundation and then they go up, they would understand the English. English is not our language. It is someone else's language. And like Mr. Fojo said, they understand it in their own way because it is their language. So it's high time we inculcate this into our children. If you're here and you're speaking English, your children at home, please change and start speaking the local language to them. It would be beneficial to them and it gives them an identity as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Botri. Prof. Okay, well, for me, I also went to Saito, but with a twist. I went to the missionary Saito. And so it was kind of interesting because we were pretty much forced to speak English. So commonly, you see us speak like, if you do, I'll beat you, that kind of English. And we thought we were speaking English. Okay. Now, anybody here who is around my age probably would also remember, we, at the time, if you come to our school, on the walls, do not speak vernacular language. And woe to you to speak vernacular language. The whole day, you will wear a placard, shame on you for speaking vernacular language.
Yeah, so we will speak about that.
Shame on you for speaking vernacular language. At that time, we really did not think about the implications of that on us. And interestingly, it was our own Ghanaian elite that was pushing us to be like Oyibo. Meanwhile, we forget, or at that time, we also forgot that, and I'm glad that Openi talked about linking language and development. We hear this argument, blacks are not smart, blacks are not smart. Every black community that I know in Africa has borrowed a language and is trying so hard to develop with that language. It's never going to happen because there's no example on this planet where a country has developed using somebody else's language. And so we need to wake up. And I'm speaking to the elite in this room and beyond because we are the ones impeding. I remember when AyaPrep started, he came to me. At that time, I was the Vice Chancellor at we call it Telecom, GCTU at that time. And so, so excited about it, I said, this is why you have to go to the Ministry of Education, because I believe in this product. They went to Ministry of Education. That was the first obstacle. I know they can't say it, but I'll say it for them. You see, this is our ministry. Instead of even welcoming it and say, let's pilot it, they say, this thing, we don't want it here. So I remember telling him that, look, technology like this, a lot of them struggle before they take up. So go and just market it yourself. In my office, we started talking about plans, do your own self-marketing. Look at where we are right now. There are testimonials that will be shared with us. So I think it is very, very extremely important for us to not even think about ourselves, but as a nation, as a society. Why have we borrowed somebody's language and thinking that we can perfect it? Look, when I traveled first to Norway, I thought I was so useless because I was studying in a classroom where Norwegian was being taught, was being used to teach. And here I was sitting there. So when the teacher cracked a joke, I'm just looking at everybody. Then I realized the power of your own language. Because those guys, everybody understood what they were saying except for me. Then I'd go to the US. I was having some pain in my leg. So I went to see my doctor and I said, "Oh, Michelle, I think I'm having some pains here." Michelle says, "Doc, what kind of pain? What type of pain?" I said, "Hey, are there more than one pain?" He said, "Oh, yeah, we have a pinch pain, we have this pain, we have that pain, we have that pain." Which one? I was dead. Because our language had been stumped and it had not been allowed to develop, so we don't have the vocabulary to express ourselves. See why we are not developing? Because we can't express ourselves. Our kids cannot express ourselves. Even as an adult, every professor here, if you sit in a classroom and the medium instruction is English, you first try to understand it in your mind. Your brain will be working faster and 3 times harder because you have to now translate that, try to translate that into your mother tongue to really comprehend it. So, there's so much research about this. We don't have to even ask this question, why is it important? We all know it is important. It's the step we have to take to get it done. So I'm very proud about AyaPrep, what they are doing, and I hope that all of us here will support initiatives like that. Those of you who are in positions of authority, let's bring these things back to our classrooms, our schools, and our homes, and change. Because, I'm going to emphasize it again, no country, I've done research about it, I have not seen any country, you mentioned Singapore. Singapore uses Malay, English, a combination. For us, if you bring up one language, somebody will argue, no. But we have to. We definitely have to. It saddened me, sometimes you travel, not even Ghana here, you meet some people, meet my kid, hello, or today, then the kid is looking at you like, in Ghana. Oh, then the mother or father says, "Oh, as for my child, he doesn't speak Fanti." Oh, really? So we are not helping anybody. We are not helping ourselves. We are not helping our nation. If we continue this path, we will continue to be undeveloped. Because there's something called linguistic relativism. Prof will know. Linguistic relativism is that your language, well-developed language, determines your vocabulary, your thinking, your worldview. So if your language is not developed, your worldview is like this. And that's what we're experiencing. So those of you from School of Languages and all of that, please help us. There's absolutely no reason why my books are not translated. I don't understand it. So please, I think I'm speaking too much.
Thank you. We want Prof. Can you give the mic to Prof. Obandele? So, Prof. Obandele, you are welcome. Yes, we are trying. Forgive me, I am of Dangbe background. I can speak some Ga and Dangbe. Not very good in Twi, so I'm trying to be careful. But we are trying to look at the importance of Ghanaian languages in the educational system of Ghana. And what we have tried is to look at the background of the panelists, the medium of instruction they had when they were in lower grade, and as they grew, how language and learning was. And so that is the interaction we are sharing. We'll be glad if you have your input as well.
Martin. Madam Wasi, Dedicano, Mechiacha, Nanonom, Nime Name, Penifonina. So I greet all of you. Medica and Shia Adiano, I wore a brochure, and the mission Yanana, I am Rofocasa. We didn't fear Dunkron as Sanam who said BBI from Tree or Yasi. So I, of course, had all of my instruction coming from the US, and it was all in English. And I was 19 years old before I even found out that there was something in the world called Chi. Now, opening a jikum now, you can't tell me Chi. I know you're a film pimino, and I'll tell me Chi, Brammy by Legons, you upon me, Diafe Bakoha. So Professor Ajikum was my first Chi teacher, actually, in the year 2000. Bidikan ba Ghana afia pima hankron do kron wachi. So I first came to Ghana in 1998. Medina wachi minupe. I spent 2 weeks at that time. Mesamba afia pima hankron do kron and kron. Mesandi na wachi minupe. And then it was again 2 weeks in 1999. Afia pim minu na media afi bakwaha. And then bekai pa se opening ajikumna of my mission and ansesem yakan ansesem I won't remember. And I recall, clearly he was like, you understand the Chi, you're able to, speak it, but the main thing is like pronunciation, so let's try to work on that. So we just read Anansi's stories. And I remember that I was with a study abroad group and no one else spoke any Chi, but they said because I had already, gone some way that I would just do one-on-one with Open Ajikum. The corner of Banyan say, and Crawford Bio, Mokase, oh, my wofo and Cheremi Casano, and Untina Mente Casano. Umani, Sabre, now some Mokase, oh, Titimona, Yamfa Casan and Titimon. Omokanasa, Omu to Chere. That there are people who are like, oh, because my parents didn't teach me, that's why. So these are full-grown adults, and then they're still blaming their parents that, oh, my parents didn't teach me Chi, they didn't teach me God, they didn't teach me this. And I'm like, you're a full-grown adult. At this point, you can take the responsibility to go ahead and learn the language, because I tell them I was 19 before I even knew that Chi existed in the world. And see, I know you had about and yes, oh, obi said yes, ebe chreme say ebi ama wofo na say aban na say adesua bia wo a je say wofo na say ade je say usua na afide obeko anim. So what I'm saying for anyone who doesn't speak Chi is that you have to take the responsibility. You can't be a full-grown adult and say, oh, my parents didn't teach me. I didn't learn it in school. The government, it had this policy. For me, if I started when I was 19, then definitely you can start when you've been around the language your entire life here in Ghana. And baby wo Yoruba kase omoka say abi ko akoigba ita wonti won kogbon wale. Abi ko akoigba ita ni wonti kogbon wale. And it say dia ye wo no aya nkyira no. De ya kyerɛ no ɛna